a real treat to be visiting from Washington, to be able to come back home and to be able to engage with such a great event. So I can get a sense of who all is in the audience. Could you tell me how many of you already export to Asia? Well, I hope by the time we're done here, more of you will be thinking about doing that. For those of you who have your hands raised, how many export to one country? You can leave your hands up. 2 countries? 3? 4? 5? That's good. How many?
About 7.
Great.
We deal with more than 80 markets.
Great. Anyone else that I missed has a large number of countries you're exporting to? Well, that's a great start, and I'm hopeful that more of you will be joining your colleagues there. And may I also ask my colleagues from the Commerce Department to raise their hands so you know who they are. As these are guys that you really want to know. So leave your hands up for just a minute so people can see if you're at their table or how to get to your tables. Because during the networking breaks, during the other chances you have today, these are people who really know their stuff, and you want to know their stuff too, so that you can join your other colleagues in the audience by exporting to more countries in Asia. So let me tell you just a little bit about where I'm coming from Washington, where I'm coming from now, because I'm from here. But I work for the Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration, and we went through a major reorganization about a year ago to better serve our clients. So at that time, we developed new business units that are broken down to the one I come from, global markets, enforcement and compliance, and industry and analysis. And I think I saw someone, my friend Corey from industry and analysis over here. These are the people who know your industries inside and out and can give you a lot of very helpful data. The other colleagues I have in the audience are from my unit, global markets. We resulted as a merger between the commercial service and our policy desks to really show that policy and promotion really should be 2 sides of the same coin. So when we're helping you, I heard someone say that the pistachio growers are represented here today. When we help break down a tariff in India on pistachios on the market access side, that actually helps also towards the promotion side and giving your companies, your growers, access, being able to sell into that market. So really policy and promotion, what we're tackling together, is really meant now to be more unified so that we're being more strategic to get more U.S. companies into Asia, and not to just one country in Asia, but to more. So that's basically where we're coming from in this. The offices that I manage in Washington include our Office of ASEAN and the Pacific Basin, the Office of East Asia and APEC, and our Office of South Asia, which includes India. And then I also have 15 offices overseas throughout Asia Pacific. My region does not cover China, so you'll be lucky to hear from Terry Batch later today on the China panel, but I'll also be joining you for the Japan and Korea panels. So if you have questions that you think of while I'm speaking, you might want to save those for the panels or for while we talk on the sides afterwards. But happy to try to answer all of your questions, because ultimately we want to answer those so that we can help you export. We have within our Global Markets Unit a group called the Advocacy Center. And when you're competing on projects abroad, the Advocacy Center can be brought in to marshal the resources of the federal government to help you compete on a level playing field. Something I should also note that we have in our new Global Markets Unit is a program called Select USA. And we've been working with our friends from Kotra and Jetro here about how we do more to attract more Korean and Japanese and other investment into the United States. We are very proud of the fact that we are the largest destination for foreign investment, but we know not to rest on our laurels. And we're gearing up to have another Select USA Summit in March in Washington, D.C., or just outside Washington, D.C., that we hope that we'll see a lot more participants in. That'll build on the success of our last one, because the growing number of investors in the United States also helps create more jobs. But our bread and butter in global markets is to help you enter and expand in international markets, address barriers to entry, win foreign government procurements, and attract that investment. And so we are really looking at how we do more to introduce you to potential customers, to organizing trade events, and so that we meet your needs during the life cycle of exporting. Because we find the more we do that, it can create more of a virtuous cycle and help you to export to more countries, which is, after all, the goal to help you create more jobs here at home. Exports, after all, drive nearly a third of our economic growth and account for 14% of our economy. We've had a successful strategy called the National Export Initiative that Secretary Pritzker is building on now, which he calls NEI Next. And that has 4 key pillars. That's to connect your businesses to your next global customers with more tailored industry-specific information and assistance. And that's where Corey really comes in to help. We want to make your next international shipments easier and less expensive for you, and that's why working with partners such as UPS or FedEx or DHL can really be helpful on that score. Working with our district export councils and groups like the Chamber here also really can help with that. Overall, the U.S. government is looking to expand your access to finance for your next export transactions. We're looking to promote your exports and investment attraction as the next export economic development priority in communities and regions across the country. And that's why that Select USA Summit that's coming up in March is so important. And we're also looking to create, foster, and ensure U.S. businesses' next global opportunities by helping developed and developing economies improve their business environments by opening new markets and establishing conditions so that you can better compete. And in my mind, there's no better place to look to do all of this than in Asia, and no better time than right now. I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase that's called the Asia rebalance. And I should note that just last month, President Obama reaffirmed his commitment to Asia by taking a week-long visit to the region, and he plans to go to India in January. So we're very encouraged about the amount of high-level attention that we have going into Asia-Pacific or the Indo-Pacific, and we're looking to continue to build on that. Secretary Pritzker, the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, has been a real champion of the region. I had the opportunity to travel with her 3 times within a 5-month period out to Asia. So this is a cabinet member who is committed to seeing our engagement with Asia grow. She is one of the most dynamic members of the cabinet and has the president's ear. So when we talk about our rebalance and the commercial dimension, she is personally leading the charge. One of the centerpieces of our Asia rebalance is the Trade-Pacific Partnership, the negotiations that are going on now between 12 countries that will lead to potentially the highest standard, most comprehensive trade arrangement that the U.S. has negotiated. And our hope is that will be concluded next year. When that is concluded, and potentially even in advance of that, we will be looking to all of you to help us get the word out about the tremendous opportunities that that agreement will bring, especially for small and medium-sized companies, people who have been thinking about Asia but haven't made the step there yet, because we see that as being something that will really level the playing field and help our U.S. companies compete. And the time now is really critical. I look at Asia as being the center of the economic universe. You heard right before me about the growing consumer class, that and along with the urbanization and the growing needs of these countries and their ability to pay for it means that there's even more room for partnerships that we can develop. And I regard the U.S. and Asia as being very natural partners. There is a quote that many people like to quote the president on, and it's a nice quote. But I'm going to read you the full quote because it often gets truncated. The first part says, when the president was talking about the pivot to Asia, the rebalance to Asia, the United States has been and always will be a Pacific nation. And I love that. It's very succinct. It positions us. It says, where we are, both in terms of geography, but also in terms of our intent towards the region. The Pacific being, of course, both the ocean as well as the peaceful nature that we bring with us. The second part of the quote that often doesn't make it into whoever is quoting the president's remarks goes, Asian immigrants helped build America, and millions of American families, including my own, cherish our ties to the region. And for me, that's what says it all. It talks about something that is our natural competitive advantage here for as we engage. Because we seek to engage not just transactionally, though don't get me wrong, those transactions are good. They build businesses, they build jobs in both the U.S. and in our trading partners. But it also goes to that people-to-people engagement that's going to be so key for as we work with these countries as they go through some tremendous transformations in the next year. They are the economic center of the universe, and we want to partner with them as they grow, as they address challenges, as they do things that we can learn from too. And so having those ties, I think, is really key, and having chambers like this organize events like this to help you understand better how to engage more directly with some of those places, I think is just really paramount and timely. So I mentioned that Secretary Pritzker has been on the road a lot lately. I was with her most recently in October in Japan and Korea. She took a trade mission to those two countries. It was the first time in about 2 decades a U.S. Commerce Secretary taken a trade mission to Japan, and the first time since about 1999 since a Commerce Secretary had taken a trade mission to Korea. So it's been a long time coming in my mind, since these are 2 very strong allies and 2 very strong trading partners. And I should say that I want to congratulate you on your focus for this conference, Japan, Korea, and China, all countries that are within our top 10 export markets, ones that are all top 10 prospects for many of the sectors that you're looking at, but also places that have a lot of opportunity for U.S. companies. So Japan is the world's 3rd largest economy after the U.S. and China, with a GDP of nearly $5 trillion. The U.S. exported $65.2 billion worth of goods to Japan in 2013, and Japan has historically been the 2nd largest source of foreign direct investment in the United States. Last year, looking just at that year, they were the largest in terms of that year. So 2nd largest, historically largest last year. So it's that investment alone from Japan means about 680,000 U.S. workers have jobs thanks to that investment. So we're talking big numbers here and substantial involvement with the U.S. But even though we already have a great place with that, we think there's still room to grow, and there's a lot of more opportunity to be had there. So the Secretary took a trade mission that was really focused on energy and health, 2 sectors where we think policy and promotion really tie neatly together. Those are 2 highly regulated industries and ways and areas where we can do a lot more to develop our partnerships. But that doesn't mean that our interest in those 2 countries is limited to those sectors. We think, especially with Japan, there's a lot more that can be done on agriculture, aerospace, biotech, cloud computing, cosmetics, education, corporate training, healthcare, IT, insurance, medical equipment, pharmaceuticals, renewable energy, I mentioned energy already, sorry, safety and security, and telecom equipment. And also with the build-out as they get ready for the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo, we think we'll see a boost to consumer and business confidence in Japan, even though a little bit of that has been waning lately. But the build-out for that will provide opportunities for us in both in terms of infrastructure, but also in terms of how we work with them on attracting more tourism. So a lot of exciting opportunities there with Japan, especially as they are a major member of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP negotiations. The U.S. and Japan are the 2 largest economies involved in those, and the outcome of the negotiations, we believe, will be good for both countries and might also provide Japan the sort of fillip that it needs to move beyond its current slightly lagging economic indicators. I wanted just to drill down a little bit into some of the agriculture areas, because I understand that many of you in this audience are interested in those. And so with Japan, the U.S. is already Japan's top supplier of agricultural products with a 24% market share last year. We do face strong competition, so we're always looking for ways to bolster that, and I'll talk a little bit more later about one way to do that. In agriculture and fisheries, our exports were $13.8 billion. Our consumer-ready products grew to $6.3 billion, and that was driven mainly by beef, dairy products, and tree nuts. We also see the consumer food and beverage market there as being a great opportunity for our companies in general. And these areas are all really important and magnified by a couple of the trends that are going on within the Japanese economy. Many of you are already aware of their aging population, but what that means for these sectors is they're diversifying their eating habits. There's a greater emphasis on high quality, there's an increased demand for convenience, and food safety concerns are paramount. And I believe that U.S. companies can really help fulfill those concerns and needs. So turning to Korea, the president has been to Korea 4 times, more than any other country in Asia. I myself have been to Korea 4 times in the last 4 months to help prepare for the Secretary's trade mission there, as well as to continue with some of the follow-up from that. And I can tell you that Korea is an amazing market. Our free trade agreement with Korea, the KORUS, is still going through its implementation. It won't be fully implemented for a few years yet, but we've seen the results from the initial stages, and what is already the world's 15th largest economy and the 4th largest economy in Asia, and our 10th largest export market, I think stands ready to open more doors for more of our companies. In 2013, the U.S. exported $41.7 billion worth of goods to Korea. We have seen our trade in goods and services go up both ways since the implementation since the KORUS first went into effect. What's also been exciting there is the growth in investment. Korea is now the 7th largest stock of foreign direct investment into the United States, and it is in one of the top 10 fastest growing investors into our country. And a lot of that comes from the KORUS, even though that's not always the story that makes the headlines. So I think the ways we continue to work with Korea as they continue to implement fully the free trade agreement that we have, we'll continue to see more good news stories that will see benefits for both countries. The U.S. continues to see solid export growth in both the intermediate and consumer-oriented product segments of the market that lead us to be a leading agricultural supplier to Korea. And we have over 20% market share there. You see similar trends, but not quite exactly the same trends in Japan. Korea is also an aging society, so you have some of what I said related to Japan being applicable to Korea, but you also see in Korea an increased rise of affluent consumer groups, retirement of baby boomers, more women entering the workforce, and more well-traveled, educated people who are urbanizing and using more information technology. I hope during the panel someone will ask me about the role of organics in the Korean market, if any of you are interested in that, because I think that's an interesting story in and of itself that ties directly back to an opening that we had under the KORUS Free Trade Agreement. I want to say just a few words about China, but with the caveat, I'm not an expert on China. Terry is your expert on China. But I wanted to not neglect a major country that you're interested in hearing more about. Last year, China's GDP grew by 7.7%, and we are looking to engage further with China coming up very shortly in December when the Chinese will send a large delegation to Chicago for the Joint Commission on Commerce and Trade that Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker will participate with. During the last 10 years, our exports to China have grown by 254%, and that trade in goods and services has related to an estimated creation or support of 800,000 U.S. jobs, which is another amazing number. We're talking big numbers here with these major trading partners. Still, China remains a tough market for many of our companies, so it's important that we do have a large foreign commercial service presence in China. We actually have more officers on the ground in China than in any other country in the world. And part of that is because of the enormous opportunity. Part of that is because there are some tough issues there to resolve, especially relating to intellectual property rights, the role of state-owned enterprises, the lack of transparency, and the bureaucracy. But you should know that there are people on the ground there, a lot of people on the ground there, who really want to help you navigate your way through that. We also have excellent offices in Japan and Korea who are there to assist you. That's just a snapshot at the World Bank's doing business indicators, just so to give you a sense of proportion. Korea is considered to be the 7th easiest country in the world to do business with, which a lot of people don't realize according to the World Bank doing business indicators. Japan is 27, China is 96. So the challenge with China is a bit stiffer, but we do have a really good sized office out there in China to be able to help you navigate that, as well as our excellent teams here in the United States to help you with all of those countries. So one additional tool that I told you I would tell you about that will help, we hope, make more U.S. companies competitive in this area the Chamber asked me to mention our Market Development Cooperator Program, or MDCP, which is ITA's only grant-making arm. The MDCP awards include financial and technical assistance to support projects and enhance the global competitiveness of U.S. industries. Trade associations and other nonprofit business development groups can compete for these awards, and they're awarded as they enter into the partnership. And once they are awarded, they enter into a closer partnership with the International Trade Administration. On average, from 1997 through 2013, MDCP projects generated $327 in exports for every $1 of a grant made, which is a pretty great return on investment. So back in September, our Undersecretary, Stefan Selig, announced that Cal Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce would receive $300,000 from MDCP to help the processed foods industry generate exports to China. These funds are expected to generate an estimated $85 million in exports by U.S. companies over the next 3 years. So in addition to organizing this kickoff event and exporting seminar event, the Cal Asian Chamber will develop additional activities such as a trade mission to China, matchmaking meetings, and technical exporting sessions. Cal Asian is also considering hosting buyer delegation visits from China to U.S. trade shows and having its own booth at some U.S. trade shows or pavilions. So I think that's an excellent tool that'll help more of you become more competitive in the Chinese market in this area. And I really hope that you will talk to Cal Asian to find out more about what that can mean for you and your company. But I should note that the 3 countries being highlighted here today, Japan, Korea, and China, are all top 10 export markets for U.S. processed food and beverages. And they're key markets overall for all of our exports. So there's a lot to be said for looking at all 3 of these markets and beyond for these sectors as well as others. So as I mentioned earlier, we have our staff in Washington. We've got over 100 offices throughout the United States, 15 of them being in California, 2 of them being in LA. And we have our offices in over 70 countries abroad, with about 15 of those in my region. Our newest opening was recently this fall in Burma, Myanmar. So we're very excited about what we can be doing to help more companies, U.S. companies, explore places that may not necessarily be on your radar screen right now, but our goal is to be where you are and where you want to be. I am being given the hook, so I just wanted to make sure I mentioned 2 very important documents for you to pick up either on the tables outside or in your bag. And those are a contact sheet for how you can get in touch with me, my offices, the local offices, the people in your neighborhood who can help you connect to global markets. So even if you don't remember anything else I said today, this sheet should be able to help you as you go forward. And the other event I wanted to make sure I mentioned was we have coming up one of our Discover Global Markets events, a business forum in February 9th through 11th in Silicon Valley, where the U.S. Commercial Service, in cooperation with NASA, will host a dynamic 3-day business forum. And it'll be focused on opportunities for U.S. companies to meet global demand for sustainable solutions. So please pick up this flyer, pick up this contact sheet. This has, in addition, I should mention, the 3 agricultural trade offices at our embassies in Seoul, Tokyo, and Beijing. And so they can help you with many of the more technical questions you might have. And I would really welcome your interest, your questions on the panels later, and getting a chance to know you a little bit better on the sidelines of this conference, which I want to again thank the conference organizers for having put together at such an important time for dealing with such a dynamic region, which again I think is the economic center of the universe and key to our prosperity as a country going forward. And what you are doing here is really something that will help build on those partnerships and help us engage more deeply in a very important region for us. So thank you again to the organizers and to all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here today.